Well, hi there, folks. My name's Joe, and I'm your local farmer. And today, we're talking cover crops. Hey guys, I need to interrupt my own video for just a second. I went through my entire planning process and even shot the video before I realized there's a bit of an assumption we're making here about cover crops that we need to discuss real quick. For most of agriculture, if you walk up to a farmer and you say, hey, nice cover crop there, what he is immediately going to assume that you're talking about is a fall planted crop, a sacrificial crop, intended to either retain or create nutrients in the soil, okay? However, what we're seeing over the last, let's say 20, 25 years, is people are starting to use crops in the middle of the growing season, okay? And they're calling some of those cover crops as well. Now, as a general rule, they'll have another term to go with that. I've heard of people talk about something called a green manure crop, which is just a rapidly grown crop that you're just going to roll right back into the soil, grow it fast, kill it, roll it back in. There's weed suppression crops. You're growing them really just for the fact that they are going to shade weeds. And most anybody is going to have another term for those. However, I've heard them referred to as cover crops, okay? Is that incorrect? Not at all, okay? But just be aware that most agriculture, when we're talking cover crops, we're talking a fall planted crop, but not always. You're going to see some of these other uses for cover crops. Generally, the thing that kind of keeps them all tied together is that you're planting a crop that is not going to be your main crop, if that makes sense. It is not your cash crop. Now, before we go too far, I've got to ask you, have you ever met somebody that had something in their life that was so very important, it defined their life, if you will, and yet they didn't talk about it much? Maybe you went months or even years before you found out something. I remember I had a coworker who I worked with him for 5, 6, 7 months before I found out that he was an insulin-dependent diabetic. Of course, didn't change anything about our relationship, but I didn't know that, and he never talked about it. And that's something that, as farmers, I think we don't express to the public, is our concern with soil health. The public nowadays is very concerned about soil health, and as farmers, we are as well. I think that's pretty simple to say. If you're a farmer who grows a crop, you're very concerned about soil health. But we don't bring it to the public. We don't mention it. We don't talk about it an awful lot. It's more in the things that we do, Here on our farm, we talk about farming the soil. Now, maybe not with that word, that verbiage. We don't use those words. We don't use those verbs, but we do. We believe in taking care of this soil and preserving it, keeping it healthy. And that's very important to us. So what are the pros and cons of cover crops? Well, it's pretty easy to see the pros, okay? Nutrient retention, that's going to be our number one thing. Here in the Northwest, we primarily raise our cover crops to retain nitrogen. The other thing is organic matter. Even if this didn't retain any nitrogen at all, boy, look at this lush organic matter we're putting back in the soil. That organic matter, as well as the nutrients we're retaining with it, are going to feed the bacteria, the living organisms in the soil. And it's going to do a great thing to make sure that soil is good and healthy next year. Okay? Now, as for the cons, there's one big con and a couple of small cons that are, well, let's just say what I would describe as situational. Okay? Now, the big one is the expense. Okay? The business expense. We're talking about a lot of time, labor, fuel that it takes to plant this crop. Now, please don't think that I'm saying that farmers don't want to do this. That's not the case. Farmers, they care about their soil. And, of course, we've just mentioned all the pros. And we know for a fact the pros do outweigh the cons. But we do have to mention that is the biggest thing to overcome for most farmers is, there is a sizable financial cost to it. Now, there's a couple other things that we have to be concerned with. Thanks to my friend Justin O'Day with the Washington State University Extension Office, I asked him, or I reached out to him about what are some other, negatives, because I couldn't think of anything right off. And let me just read you a quick list of what he has come up with. Difficulty with effectively and or timely killing the cover crop, seedbed prep after high residue cover crops, nutrient tie-up after cover crops that get turned in too late, especially cereals and other grasses, disease or insect carryover if not rotated correctly with cash crops, and untimely or late cash crop seeding after nitrogen-rich cover crops. Mineralized nitrogen from cover crops lost to the environment before it can be taken up by the cash crop. So those are most of the cons, and I thank Justin for helping me out with those. Now, I have to admit that I had a hard time coming up with anything myself other than the financial aspect. But part of that is that, of course, Justin has to be concerned with everything, all crops, let's put it that way. Whereas, especially on our farm, we are a vegetable farm, and for a cover crop, we raise cereal grains. This is wheat. A lot of times we will interplant with a legume, usually vetch. Works very well for us. Again, legumes are known for pulling nitrogen out of the air, and they generally don't have disease carryover or anything like that that affects our vegetables. Not to mention, we will probably go in about mid-April and kill this crop regardless. So we definitely don't wait too long for those nitrogen tie-up problems that he was talking about. Well, guys, thank you for watching my video today about cover crops. And I just want to tell you as I leave here, I'm glad I could share this with you because we feel that cover crops on our farm are invaluable to what they do for our soil health, our soil structure, and a term that we'll talk about here in the future, our soil sustainability. Okay? A lot of emphasis on that word nowadays. For us, this is key. And maybe we don't talk about it enough, if you know what I mean. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you can. And if you have an idea for something you'd like me to talk about it next time, please leave a comment below. Thanks a lot. You guys have a great day.